So I have, for those in our audience here in person, I have the county attorney on via Zoom. I have Commissioner Doster, Commissioner Bettis. I have in person here, we've got Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Strickland. I do not see Commissioner Kirk on here. I haven't spoken with him today, so if he joins us here shortly, that'll be fine, but we'll probably go ahead and proceed and get started. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 6:04, and we've got a fair number of items on our agenda, but to be truthful, some of these are going to happen or they're going to go pretty quick. I can't turn these on. These folks can hear me, but this mic right here, for anybody that does speak, if they come up here, that'll pick them up. So, yeah, I'll try to be mindful of at least speaking a little clearer. All right, there's Commissioner Kirk. All right, I feel a little bit better now. We have a full house. Let's see, it says he's joining. Maybe, I don't know if that helps. Okay, all right. Our first order of business is a little housekeeping. Let's get rid of the minutes from the last two meetings. So we have the minutes from September 28th, 2020. All commissioners are present. So if you're ready to make a motion, we'll go ahead and approve that set of minutes first.
So moved, Chairman.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any questions or comments on those? That Commissioner Allen.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Kirk. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Commissioner Kirk? You good with those minutes? Okay. Commissioner Doster.
Yes.
Thank you. We also have minutes from October 5th. We had commissioners all present, but Commissioner Bettis. So I'll entertain a motion on these minutes.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Allen.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Strickland. Any questions or comments on these? All right. Vote is to Commissioner Strickland.
Yes.
Abstain.
I believe he's dropped offline. So Commissioner Doster?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. It's a majority vote, so those are approved anyhow. All right. We have no business involving, I guess, a chairman's report. Got a couple items, real small, brief items here that I'd like to okay, it does look like he's back, so good. I gotta find my commissioner's report. Do you have that? Oh, no, I do. I got it. All right. First item I actually wanted to take care of and make mention of is with the strong recommendation from the chairman of the Recreation Board, and concurrence from board members, Board of Commissioner members, I and others am very pleased to present the name of Shelley Parham to fill our Recreation Department Director position. Since it's a department head and we're bound by certain protocols, the commissioners will actually have to vote on this at a later meeting. And that meeting.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
we'll vote on that on November 30th, but the effective date of that position will be December 1st. And we look forward to actually making that official. So thank you very much, board members and Shelley, for taking that position. We appreciate that. Next item was Governor Kemp proclaimed Sunday, November 1st, 2020 as Retired Educators Day in Georgia. I signed a proclamation last Wednesday recognizing Retired Educators Day and call upon the citizens of Madison County to express their appreciation for the contributions that retired educators have made and continue to make. So if you see one of your former teachers or your contemporaries out there, please let them know how much we appreciate it and recognize them on November 1st. And then the last one's just an update to our commissioners. A package was submitted for approval of our LMIG funds. They were approved. We actually received our funding from the state for the recent project list that we submitted. And that was to the tune of $713,509.05. So at a time and place of our choosing, we'll be going out for bids for those series of projects now that all of that's approved. We have a 30% match on that too, as a reminder. Our next item on the agenda is statements and remarks from citizens, and these are on any of the agenda items. We have agenda item 5 through 14 are the items that we'll cover this evening, 5 through 14. So with that, I'll ask that we keep the remarks brief, and remember that these are for these items only. And with that, I'll open up the floor. We'll do it first come, first serve. If you're in person, that's fine. I'd ask you to come up to the podium. Just let us know your name and address. And same if you're online, we'll hold the floor for you. Okay, I've got Mark Perry coming forward first. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, I'm Mark Perry, 925 Double Branch Road. I was here in the consideration in the proposal of the 911 radio system. The fire departments voted back in March to support the implementation of a new radio system. At that time, we were offered a demonstration, and then the COVID struck and all, and in it, at that time it was a Motorola product, and now it went out for bids, and I haven't seen the bid proposal or the bids or anything else, but one part of that was that there's a shortfall in the funding of the project, and which is will be replacing all the radios for the sheriff's department, the EMS, road department, and any other department that needed them. But so far, the proposal is that the fire departments would pay for their own radios at the tune of $150,000 or so, and all the others would be paid for out of the other project. And I just wanted to run that by the commissioners and see if we could have any help on that. I don't know what either one of the proposals are, or what the price is exactly, but I might have been more able to discuss this after the proposal was made, but this is the public comment time of the meeting. So I'm sort of shooting off the cuff a little bit, but it's my turn, so.
I understand, and that is part of Cap Baird's presentation tonight would be to present that information. So
And maybe at that time we'd have an opportunity to ask a question or.
we'll and to be truthful, at that point we're into the commissioners only. But again, I would say if there's a concern or questions or whatever, if something's not known, I'm not averse to opening that up if the commissioners are for that too.
All right.
All right. Okay, I've got.
I'm Steve Arnold. I live at 3415 Crawford Hollow Road, Nicholson, Georgia. I don't live in Nicholson, but I'm in Madison County. I have a Nicholson address. I just want to address the board this afternoon about the 911 system. I understand there's two proposals or two companies has put in bids. I'm not recommending one company over the other one. I just know that what we have now is not working. And so that company, if they're in for a bid, we need to really consider them, because you're not buying a product, you're buying a service and a system. First off, I found out that the system is going to be designed by that company that you pick. So be very careful in what you pick, because you're not buying a product, you're buying a system. They're going to design the system and they're going to put the system in. And so you're buying a system and you're buying a product, but after all that, you're buying the service. And have we received the service that we needed and should have in the last several years? My answer is no to that. Because when I try to call in, I can't get in. I've sounded stupid, I've sounded dumb, I've sounded ignorant, I've sounded all kinds of things on the radio, and probably 90% of that was not me. It was because the system would not work and could not function. If you can't communicate, you sound stupid, you sound dumb. The bottom line is you don't know what you need to know. And when you answer a fire call, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're half asleep, and you get paged out to something, you need to know what you're going to be paged out to. You need to know where the directions are. You need to know the closest cross street. You need to know what you're doing as a volunteer or as paid for that matter. Emergency. Time is money. Time is life, could be life. Communication are critical. We have to have them. So remember that, guys. You're not buying just a product. You're buying a service. You're buying a design. You're buying a product, and then you're buying the service. And the key in the long term is the service. Who can supply that service to us, and who has had the opportunity and not done it in the past, and who you think will do that and is capable of doing that. I know what we have now is not, and I think the service is more than anything else, but the design is great too. And I will touch on the radios. I have 4 personal radios that I use in the fire service in different vehicles. I've required those radios over 42 years. I can't replace all of those at one time. And I'm just one of many firemen out there that are in the same boat. So we need a little bit of funding on that. If you can help us, whatever you can do, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Can we get your address again?
3415 Crabapple Hall.
Okay, we'll continue on if there's somebody else, and I'll ask if you're not speaking, if I could get you to mute your microphones, and that'll reduce some of the feedback that we get here. I'll open the floor if there's anybody else. Okay. Todd?
Thank you. Todd Higdon, 34 Samuel Court, Danielsville, Georgia. I hate to keep having to come before you to ask questions on agenda items, especially considering the one I want to talk about is agenda item number 13. And we have to do it before it's actually discussed. So I may say things that's redundant because it may already be brought up, but we have to do it first. I plan to change that in the future for everybody, that we'll do comments at the end. So this way I can make some sense of what I'm trying to say here. All right, so addendum item, new agenda item number 13 says, consider approving lot purchase sale agreement of 50 Albany Avenue to be paid out of the 2020 SPLOST designated for facility acquisitions and improvements. First off, why? Because we don't know, and according to the agenda, I don't know what question to ask because the agenda don't tell me why we're purchasing this piece of property. 1.59 acres, I think, at the amount of $80,000. Is there any reason we're purchasing this? Anybody?
Statements or remarks from
Well, I don't know
citizens?
what to say because I got to add it to the end and I can't come back and ask.
Right.
So I have to ask up front. So I don't know what I'm asking.
I'll share with you just in the interest and because I don't want it to be secretive.
Sure.
It is a piece of land, and you're right, 80,000 is the purchase price, and it is 1.59 acres, and that's It was a move that was decided after the purchase of the other property, the adjacent property.
So this is the first time the public's heard about this. So I'm gonna assume that this is for parking. So if it's for parking, I don't know how many of the board here has went around and counted parking places. Well, I did. In the back parking lot adjacent to us, we have 76 parking places. Behind this building, we have 95 parking places. In front of the building, we have 54 parking places. Across the road at the funeral home, we have 54 parking places. Total of 279 parking places adjacent to this courthouse. That's more than any courthouse in North Georgia, including Monroe, including Clark County, Habersham, wherever you want. So I would like to say, before we spend $80,000 of splash money to purchase a piece of property that I don't know yet if we've had a perk test done on it or a compaction test on it, but that is a water drain field. That 1.5 acres is basically in position to be mostly swampland. So I would like for this to be done before we move forward in a vote to purchase it for $80,000. And I heard the fire department speak on some splash funding. If we really want to make $80,000 useful, it would go well towards helping those guys buy radios. Because at no point in time, I know we're talking about now one radio system tonight, option 8, but I still haven't seen an outline of what we're going to contribute to the fire departments, whether it be the vehicle radios, the personal radios. We still don't know what we're doing splash wise, but $80,000 would go way to the greater good of helping the firemen than an empty parking lot that in the next 4 years, as I will be chairman, and as Dennis Adams will take your replacement and Terry Chandler or Canola Scott will take your replacement, would like to have some input on this. I think it's only fair to ask these guys coming in. I do appreciate y'all going ahead and hiring the rec department head without anybody's input. Nobody asked me. They'll work under myself and Dennis and Terry or Canolas and Miss Madison and Brian Kirk.
Is there a lame duck law that's been passed that I don't know about?
No, but I thought
What do you
consideration
suggest- What do you
is
suggest we do?
ask, maybe. What do you
I
think?
talked to Denny plenty,
Nobody's talked to me.
so why you called me?
Well, I sent an email last week and I was told by Mr. Strickland, they don't have to respond to me, I need to respond to
It
him.
goes both ways, so I'm just.
It does, but you understand the role I'll be taking.
You understand
correct?
you're not chairman yet.
I am elect though, as
You
your
understand
attorney.
you are.
All right, I'm just making sure. But anyway, on $80,000, which is way above fair market value, the property was purchased for 40-something thousand recently. I'd just like for you to consider that on the vote, what we're actually be getting and the cost to do, because I know we bought a funeral home for $385,000. We still don't know what it's going to cost to remodel it. These are all things that's going to come in the next 4 years as I have to oversee the budget.
You'd be glad we bought it. You can thank us later.
The funeral home?
And the lot beside it.
Oh, so you've already bought it?
No, I didn't say we'd already bought it.
Well, the contract was signed on the 14th and 15th between the chairman and Dr. Hooper.
Looking forward. Looking forward to the
Contingent
future.
upon.
Yeah, contingent upon a board approval, yes. But would you spend $80,000 on fire department radios? Because you might want to tell these guys that you bought a parking lot that might be buildable and you haven't perk tested yet, or
Certain splash money has to be spent on certain things that we dictated that was voted for. So the $80,000 is in acquisition. It has to be spent on real estate acquisition and repair, right?
Mhm.
So we can't spend that $80,000.
but you could use
And we
it,
haven't got there
$80,000
because
to
of
remodel the
radios.
courthouse.
I know for a fact that every
remodel the
single
funeral home, right?
commissioner has said that they don't want the fire department to pay anything for their radios.
Do we have an outline on this yet?
So do we have an outline? Do we, what
I know the
outline do we
outline.
need? What is an out, what
So-
outline do
so-
we need?
On how much they're gonna get
So
towards your radios?
let's
I just said
let's
that I
go
don't
back
think
to
it's-
having just the.
All right, well, no big deal.
The comments. on
Yeah, no
this.
big deal. I mean,
And see, this is why they
again,
have
that
certain
acquisitions
things
part, that 80,000 will go towards your remodeling of that building. Don't shake your head.
No,
Trust me, I've done this a lot longer than you have.
Okay, all right, well,
Thank you.
I know, nothing to it.
all right. We'll move forward here. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment here?
I have a comment. I'm Bill Barrett with Government Communications.
Okay.
I have a statement to read about the
Yeah,
radio. Would it be
If you
better?
could, if you can, that way, because if you're not here, these
I was
folks.
just wondering if it'd be better to do it now or just wait till we have the radio discussion. As it was just general comments.
Well, and I didn't know if that was, if Captain Baird had any problem or whatever, you're welcome to speak now.
It's just a simple statement. It's a
Please.
one-page statement.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman Scarborough, other commissioners. I'm Bill Barrett with Government Communications. We're the current maintenance provider for the radio infrastructure, telex dispatch consoles, and the on-site support for the Westdale phone system for the 911 center. We've enjoyed an excellent working relationship with Madison County since 1999, 21 years. And as far as, sir, I have no idea what radio problems you've ever had. This is the first I've ever heard of. So whatever problems you ever had, I have no idea. But we've submitted a bid for the current radio system upgrade. The RFP guidelines posted were basically geared toward VHF DMR trunk system. When we started to comprise this proposal, we realized that there's only enough channels using DMR for 2 transmit sites. We used a VHF next week, and I don't want to try to get too technical with this, but I want to try to get it as simple as possible. We use VHF Kenwood next stage trunking system. We can split the channels and create 3 sites, 4 channels, 3 sites. Well, using the channels alone, we bid a VHF next stage Kenwood system instead of a DMR system. Even at that, we do not feel 3 sites is adequate enough to cover this county. Again, we've maintained this infrastructure for 21 years, and right now there's 6 talk-in sites, repeated sites that are voted. VHF channels are expensive, and even if you bought more, then you'll still be limited to 4 channels to a site. They're about $30,000. And the other option would be a simulcast system, which is a lot more expensive to deploy and maintain. And the way a 3-site system is set up, if you lose the primary site, you're going to lose, for whatever reason that primary site goes down, you're going to lose the northern half of your county. So that's the reality of that system that's been put forward. We went forward, and we strongly believe a more adequate and comprehensive solution would be in our bid that we proposed, would be a UHF 5-site, 4-channel Kenwood Next Edge digital trunk system. The 5 sites we proposed are Polka, Primary, Mill Creek, Gin Hill, or Harrison Fire Station, and the way we plotted it, the Georgia Power Tower and Carlton and Calmer works a lot better than Carlton. If Calmer's necessary and Carlton's necessary, we could use that side. But if we could get on the Georgia Power Tower and Calmer, it plots a lot better as far as coverage. This will greatly increase the portable coverage and talk-in range. It will also add more redundancy to the system. If you lose one site, you've got some overlap so that you're not completely out of the water. Our current bid for this system includes radios. The radios we proposed are public safety grade radios. I've just been notified this week there's an $85 rebate on all the radios, which means the county would be receiving somewhat of $40,000 in return for the purchase of the radios. We also have a buyback for the newer model motor turbo radios, 1-for-1. And that our bid for a UHF 5-site Kenwood Next Stage digital trunk system is still lower than the 3 sites I assume proposed by our competitor. This will also tie Madison County to Banks County to provide adequate coverage on the northern end of the county. In addition, paging will continue to function as it does currently using VHF analog voters. Digital file traffic can be repeated over the analog fire paging channel, so the firemen still pagers and everything still works the same. Interoperability. No matter what system you buy in this digital world, there's going to be some interoperability issues. That could be accomplished by either a temporary or a permanent cross patch to other counties. Scott White, he's our head tech, radio tech. He's here. He'd be glad to answer any questions you have about how that actually works to have interoperability with other counties. The other proposal we submitted was you already have Telex consoles, as we sold it and we still maintain. We propose you've already bought the licensing for these consoles. We do a hardware refresh. The licensing is already current and will remain a property of you. And that way it gives you going forward is more least expensive way to upgrade your radio consoles. In conclusion, we just appreciate a thorough and thoughtful review of the system we proposed. This system's currently working in Banks County and has been working since 2015. And most of the users that we have, as a matter of fact, I find it hard to find a user up there that has problems with it. Most of them love the system. And if there's anyone within your county would like to go to Banks County, tour the system, talk to the users, hey, see how the system works, I'll be more than happy to set it up for them, schedule a tour, talk to the fire chief, talk to the users, and be able to view the system so they have a firsthand knowledge of how the system works. And I appreciate y'all's time. If y'all have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them during the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
P-A-R-R-E-T-T.
Okay, and you will go.
Yes.
Thank you.
My name's Scott Lester, live at 235 Wesley Chapel Drive, and my wife Amy and I came tonight to speak to the board on behalf of the agenda item number 6, considering the initiating process to adopt Wesley Chapel Drive. And I know my family, as well as the other 3 residents on that drive, are in full support and favor, and would gladly welcome you guys to take that over. As it stands now, it's in a covenant between the 4 landowners there on that road, and the drive is, up best I can tell, approximately a little over 3/10 of a mile. And
3.31.
0.3, okay. And so I know we've got 4 in our family, and I'd say there's probably about between 15 and 20 individuals that live there between those 4 residents. But I know we contribute a lot to, with county taxes and everything. We just want to make sure that the road we have is maintained and in the need of any kind of public service, whether fire department or ambulance or anything like that they can get down. As it is now, it's with large amounts of rain, it's not easily traversed. So we're just here to let you guys know we're in full support and in favor of you guys taking it over.
All right. All right. Thank you.
My name is Ray Walton. I live at 149 Wesley Chapel Drive, and just like Scott, I'm just thanking y'all for y'all's consideration of taking on Wesley Chapel, and it'll just be a great help to us. But thank you for considering.
All right. Anybody else?
Jesse Williams, 440 Ray O'Kelly Road. I would like, I propose to close the unpaved portion of Ray O'Kelly Road. There's a creek down at the bottom of the hill. People are using it as a garbage dump. They're dumping deer guts and everything else this time of year, dead dogs. It's a nuisance. I'd like to have it closed. Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you.
And that was what Freeman Ray.
Ray O'Kelly.
Ray, okay.
Ray O'Kelly. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before we move on? All right, with that, I don't see anybody. If I'm missing anybody online, I don't see any hands waving or anything. So we're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5. This is we have 3 items actually that we can cover. These are listed on a consent agenda. These have all been addressed in a previous meeting. We've not had any opposition or any calls contrary to considering these 3 items at one time. I'll, as always, make the decision to break one of these out individually. That's the commissioner's call. But if the board chooses, items 5, 6, and 7 are listed as consent items. Item 5 is to consider a lease agreement with Polk Fire Department, and they're asking to extend a lease out to 50 years. Each of the commissioners has a copy of this. Everything else being held equal in the original lease, this just takes the term out to for 50 years. So. And item number 6 Again, this is not actually the vote to adopt Wesley Chapel Drive, nor is item number 7 the process. It's not to adopt Fowler Freeman. This is just to initiate the process. And as part of that, just as a reminder for folks, if the board approves this, then the property owners along those roads will be notified in writing through our county attorney, and it'll be followed up with a public hearing. And that gives everybody a right opportunity to show up and speak for or against it. And it'll be at that point and this would take place on November 30th, by the way, the subsequent vote. If the board approves these items, they'll be taken up in November. And with that, like I said, this is just we've done this several times. Sometimes if people want a road adopted, only to find out that one of you was just joking and they changed their mind, and we have to walk away from it, and it doesn't make us look very good. So we try to make sure everybody understands we're going to look for all property owners to agree to this. So with that, commissioners, I leave it to you if you want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which are those 3 items, or if you want to discuss one in particular, that's fine too.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have both a motion and a second to approve these 3 items. I'll ask if there's any comment or questions on these.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the adopting the road or initiating that, do we have any protocol process set up for the road department and to provide some, I guess, professional evaluation of doing this? I mean, I know there's good money that needs to be spent. I know, and sometimes there's bad money to be spent, and I don't disagree with each one of these people that want this road taken over, but somewhere we've got to start balancing the mindset of, those lots were divided up and built on a private road, and then now in consideration at a later date, and then somebody may move from now on and say, hey, the next person may want to live on a paved road, and I'm just trying to get a better understanding of a process or some sort of dialogue that moves forward with some of these small road plats, or if we move beyond these and these are illegal now. I'm just trying to get a longer term solution than this moving forward, and I'll hear if anybody else has anything to say.
Good. And in response to, is there a system, or are there any protocols, or are there any considerations? Now we have, as part of our consideration in the past, adopted certain criteria that we use in determining this. And as is the case, we have frequent calls on some of these that drive the need beyond perhaps what would be obviously or would be practical from an obvious standpoint. There might not be that many homes. It may not be a connecting road. But if we have to send an emergency response vehicle down it, and it costs us one of those vehicles, then we have to decide whether or not the upkeep is worth the cost of replacing that vehicle. So there are some, I guess, some more clearly definable criteria, and then there's those objective, or subjective criteria as well. So in response to these 2 roads, items 6 and 7, I will share with you as part of the request at our last meeting, we were asked to, certainly take a look at easements, utilities, any encroachments that perhaps would either be, in this case, fall under the county as they adopt. And we do have locations on existing utilities and in both Wesley Chapel Drive, Fowler Freeman Lane, there is no obstruction. There is nothing that would cause any additional concern or undue burden on the county's road department in those two cases. So I did at least want to address that. But, and I certainly open that up if moving forward, the board would choose to establish, you know, a little bit more clearly defined policy on that. That, you know, that's certainly within your purview to do that. Is there any other comment or thought on that?
There is a list of criteria, Mr. Chairman, that the board had, and I guess that's what you're referring to. I don't have it in front of me at the moment. I think it goes all the way, if I remember correctly, Bruce Scogan was the first drafter of that, and the board has used it and amended it various times since then, I think. I don't believe it's ever become a formal part of policy or the code of ordinances. So I do recall, I think I recall one of the things on that list was for the road department to evaluate whether it met current standards, and if not, what it would take to bring the road up to the county's minimum standards.
You are correct. And I do, in addition to that, there were cost considerations and what have you to put it in that certain level of repair. So yes, and those were the protocols or the criteria that I was mentioning. And those have been amended certainly within the past 4 years. So they have been looked at and continue to be looked at. But again, as it stands before you tonight, given, you know, the extra consideration that Commissioner Doster raised here, we're still looking if the board chooses to move forward on this and permit the county attorney to go ahead and initiate that process. Any last comment or any other concerns over those? All right, as it stands, I've got a motion and a second to approve these three items: a lease agreement with Polk Fire Department, initiating a process to adopt Wesley Chapel Drive, and then initiating the process to adopt Fowler Freeman Lane. With that, I'll start with Commissioner Bettis.
Yes.
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 All right. All right, we're into old business, and first item on this is the consideration to recommend a proposal for our 911 radio system. And with that, what I'd offer is we have, yeah, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned for any of those of you who, there you go. What I'd like to do on this one is start off, because it is, as Mark mentioned, you know, it would be a, rather than make a motion in a second, I think it would be prudent for us to hear a recap of those proposals and some of the questions perhaps that were brought up earlier. So Brendan, if you'd like, sir.
Say this one's working, or you want me to stand over here?
Right there is good. At the end of that table, it'll pick up just fine. Thank you.
Fun and games. You'd think it wasn't much work that went into something like this, would you? I sent Rhonda an email earlier to send out to everybody. I didn't know she wasn't here. So
Yeah.
I'll make some hard copies for everybody to poke at. All right. We've been here, I don't know, 5 or 6 times now, talking about different issues and how we can resolve those issues. Really comes down to something very simple. Like Steve said, most of the feedback I get, and I've gone into quite a bit of depth looking for feedback on this particular option and item. What we have now doesn't work. I think Scott Wiley, the lead technician for Gumby, has worked more than most folks could at trying to make things work. Bill said he was unaware of some issues that exist, and that's unacceptable. We've been down the Nice Tower, which is behind Hull Sanford School. Doesn't work and hasn't in quite some time. As a talk-in, it's a repeater, but the firemen in Hull aren't getting anything off that tower, and they haven't in years. The one at Matico, just there basically as a functional stopgap, never has really functioned correctly, still doesn't. A lot of issues. They have an option. We got two proposals, one from Gumby Communications, which we've had for 20 plus years, and one from Mobilecom of America, which is a Motorola dealer that we've also done business with for that many years. Gumby has provided the infrastructure side of that and the console side of it, and at some point became the maintenance folks for the phone system as well. To make the long story short, and then we'll just ask some questions, or if you have questions, then we'll ask those and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. So Gumby actually gave us 3 proposals in one. Their ideal set of circumstance proposal and Mobilecom's ideal set of circumstances proposal, there's about $80,000 difference. The biggest difference is with Gumby's 5-site proposal, we'd have to rent or buy space on an additional tower that we don't already have. And it would also incur additional costs either for licensing, for radios, for consoles, for multicasting. And then, as Bill suggested, I actually went and rode with one of the sergeants from Banks County that I've known for about 20 years. The system itself, from the dispatcher side, they're very fond of it. The road side of it, not so much. And that's what I'm concerned about here. I also did the same thing with Elbert County, with Hartwell, with Hart County, and one of the Elbert city guys. What I have found is that the folks who have recently installed the Moto Bridge or Moto Turbo system don't have any complaints. Elbert County had one problem when they first started the system. They addressed that, Mobilecom did, and literally Chuck Allman says, I have 0 complaints with the system. I guarantee you, in this room, you can't just say that. Danielsville, Hull, Shiloh, and Nice are all sitting here. And by show of hands, how many people can say that the radios they have now work like they need to? Now, after getting those 2 proposals, we have several different issues to address. The main one is funding. It's a $1 million project or close to $1 million project, either way you go. I agree with the fire departments. I would love to see them not have to buy their own radios out of any of the money that they already have. It's a volunteer department. All of 11 of them are. It was easy for me to say, wasn't it? All 11 of them are volunteer departments. Okay, they have limited funding, but so do we. So it's a $1 million project. After the bonds were issued on the SPLOS, the percentages were in there. We get about $780,000 to pay for $1 million project. I don't care what school you went to, that don't matter. So we got to figure out where that money can come from if we want to improve our radio infrastructure. So what I suggest is what I just passed around to these guys. Honestly, can I have Mark and Jason as well? All right. And Butch. So essentially, I would suggest that we end up purchasing and going to an MCA, Mobilecom America MCA radio system. Several reasons, mostly the cost is very similar. The upkeep and maintenance is less with the Mobilecom system. The reviews on it are much better, and it is more specific to what we asked for and what we thought we needed, based on places that have similar needs and terrain that we have. So I guess the nuts and bolts of it is after going through the proposals, going through everything from what we sent out for bid versus what we actually need now, because we bought a number of radios. Some of those numbers have changed. Members have increased in departments. Some have reduced numbers. The numbers on that cover page explain the proposed cost, what the actual cost is based on number of radios and installation, the savings that provides, the needs versus wants that we eliminated some things, and how that kind of steps down based on the sources of funding. Unfortunately, that does mean that the city police departments and the fire departments would share the cost by buying their radios. And I think that each line item there is laid out as what that cost would be. But ultimately, between the PDs and the volunteer fire departments, you're looking at, you would have thought I would have known that. You're looking at about 100. You're looking at $93,000 for portables, $53,000 for the mobiles, and then about $3,000. So the total would be about $163,498 for the police departments and the fire departments, because those budgets were separate from the county budget. So everything eventually is funded based on those line items and reductions in upfront costs. All of that funding is laid out on that front page. The temporary building structure to house a new 911 center let's see, hold on a second. Derek actually suggested, and I thought was a great idea, and I wish I'd thought of it. That keeps us from having to build a new building immediately. It also saves us from having to renovate a building and invest in a ton of money to put a system in while one is still there. And it's something that we can reuse going forward for another purpose, or we can sell and recoup much of that money when we actually do build and design a building. So I'm sure this is not exactly how it normally works, but I'm ready to answer whatever questions y'all got.
So just for my information,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
just for my information, I don't have a copy. I guess there is not an email or something I can reference, right?
I understand. I didn't know Rhonda wasn't here, so I didn't know whether I didn't know she hadn't sent that out. But yes, I did not forward that to everybody. I just sent it to her.
I got you.
I think one of the biggest deals for us was, as the board, is funding the money all being there, but then where does it actually come from? You know, because we can take it out of general fund.
Right.
And reimburse SPOS and things, you know, or take it out of SPOS, reimburse
Right.
general fund, all these different things. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how we get that. And then with the fire department people being here, you know, they mean a lot.
They do.
And what they have to say, if they're,
Right.
you know, really truly, if they were to stand up right now and say, I don't think you should vote tonight, I probably wouldn't vote tonight.
Right. I understand that.
Maybe, you know, there might be some more conversation.
I understand.
And if that's the case, because I know you want to work with fire departments, there's nothing being
No, they're
malicious here.
I think we've had several meetings. We haven't had any recently because the Rona has come around. But I think the biggest point of contention is the paging staying as it is, which this would do. So the end user with the pagers would be exactly the same as it is now. It would just shift the maintenance for that. And the cost of the radios up front. And again, I get it. With this proposal, it would be the 163 from the fire departments, and the police department. Theirs is about $6,000 and some change. So it's in the grand scheme of things, it's minute. But that's taking out what we had left over in the 2013 SPLOST as well, and the additional first year costs of maintenance and whatnot.
Wow.
But that brings it down to collectively that's $779,000. We got $781,000 set aside.
District 1 definitely thinks that the fire department does not need to pay 1 red cent. Okay, so District 1 over here, you know.
I agree with you 100%.
They don't need to, they don't, they have enough to pay for, they got,
Right.
you know, enough going on, so.
Well, like I told Mark the other day on the phone, I 100% agree with you. I would
They're
love
part
to
of
see that
public
money
safety.
come from
They're
somewhere.
part of
But
public safety, just like you do.
right. I simply don't want to put a proposal in front of you guys and not say this is how we can pay for it. So this SPLOS doesn't have the money to pay for everything that's a part of this process. So because of that, that's how that was proposed. If y'all got the money to do that, that'd be awesome.
$250,000, and you know, if everything's going out of SPLOST County, it's just me talking. You know, county should be able to foot that bill for the fire departments, and they need their money for equipment and all kinds of other stuff. Pay for a new fire department over in East Sanford. You know, they do a lot of good things.
They
So
do.
we need to make sure we take care of them. So that's just my opinion.
And I know, so let's go ahead and cover a few of the givens here. I've got 3 commissioners that don't have a product in front of them. That's a shortfall right there.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting anything, and they've also got 2 proposals, and I've heard, if I understand correctly, a recommendation, but what in Commissioner Allen's correct, we do have to kind of figure out when we're voting on this where the actual funding is coming from. And there is, and I don't want to get bogged down in it too much, but I feel it's kind of necessary to bring up the point that there's a contractual arrangement between the county and the fire departments. And that contract doesn't really speak, and I'm not, you know, I almost want to say it fast so that I can say the next sentence before you judge me on the first one here, but the contract does not make any provision for the county to pay anything towards their service. It has an agreement to pay a sum of money is the way it is set up. There's a mill, then there's general fund, and of course we've set aside SPLOST. So and the reason I'm bringing that point up is conversely, there can be no expectation that you can force them to purchase that either, though. If they don't have to, you know, we don't have to buy it for them, they don't have to purchase it. So the dilemma is what good is the system if we don't have the transmitter and a receiver? So, you know, you got to have both pieces of this, and I appreciate some of the commonality and I don't understand everything with our fire service, law enforcement, or even our emergency service in general. I don't understand everything. I'm pretty familiar with radio frequencies and bandwidth issues and why we still in this rural community still want VHF pagers. If something gets you word, I don't care how prehistoric it is. If it works, it works. So you don't want to, you know, so I appreciate that we're talking about using existing stuff with new stuff and all that. The big thing for me though is the decision tonight though is to actually vote on a proposal. And I don't want to delay anything unnecessarily. I just want to make sure as a non-voting person here tonight that our commissioners have ample opportunity, as do the stakeholders, those that are going to participate in this, to figure out, you know, what we always use the term skin in the game. How are we going to require more skin from one than the other, and who's going to give it? So again, if the board feels comfortable in moving forward, that's fine, and I would yield to that. I'm just saying though that this is, and my hat's off to both companies. So that's the proposal from each of them here. It's not light reading, you know. It's got a lot of information in here, and then again, this is actually really good here too. The problem that we have when we have to identify funding when we're using a document like this is I appreciate some of the savings. I can't count on that up front. Somebody's gonna have to pay
You can.
me.
That's actually the savings between what the proposal was and what we actually need. So that's changing the overall price.
Right.
And that's the reason it's on there. So it is a given.
Right. And that's why I just want to make sure that those voting, the commissioners, know that and understand,
Right.
you know, that too. So I'm gonna very briefly, I'm gonna ask if we've had some in the audience that when we started this, we said it's a little unorthodox, but if there's a question that's not very obvious, or if there's something that jumps out at any of our guests that are online or here in person with this, I'd give you that opportunity to ask the question though.
Just to clarify, I mean, I hear very good support for helping with the radio purchase. If that's not something, then I would, want to sort of maybe share some of that burden. There is a line in the contract about the county providing dispatch.
Right.
And if dispatch is not on our frequency, we're not going to get it. So that is part of the contract. It doesn't say they have to furnish our radio, but they got to be able to talk to us. And so if they're going to grow into a new system, we got to be able to hear it. And so
This is public safety, folks. I mean, this is the well-being of our residents. I would not like to delay this any longer. And I feel as though we do have the support of folks. We got to make it work. I mean, it's life and death, and this is critical. I don't want to postpone this any further. We need to come together, and I feel like the county can make it work. Volunteers, their own time, but also 911 communication. I don't want to see this any further delayed.
Okay. Any other commissioner, anybody else?
What's the length? How long can we hold those proposals?
They're good for 60 days.
They're good for 60 days. And I mean, I don't want to hold that long either, but I was just curious if I understand Commissioner Bettis's comment, but we also have a meeting next week. So I was just wondering if anybody else have the opportunity to get the paperwork in front of them and ask any particular questions over the course of the week. Not to delay it in perpetuity by any means, but just give a quick round of review of the documents and ask any pertinent questions and bring this back next week. That would be my position, and hopefully that wouldn't be too long of a delay.
Fair enough. Yep, fair enough. I just don't want to see it another month or two delay.
I think we need to make sure we definitely figure out
Yeah.
what motion we got to make too, if that's the direction we're going to figure out.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And as Commissioner Allen's pointing out, when in your consideration, let's just be mindful of how we're gonna, where we tell the county, the folks here, where that money's coming from.
Can I interject something, please? I heard a call the other day on 911 dispatch where officers could not hear in an incident, and they had a choice whether to tase the guy or kill him. And he's made a statement, I am not going alive. I beg you, commissioners, if you had a dead body here, you'd make a decision. I'm asking you to be proactive, not reactive. Because that could be some of my friends. That could be my son. It could be somebody we know. It could be somebody kin to you out there protecting you. So I urge you tonight, Commissioner, be proactive. Do not be reactive. We're going to get somebody killed. Somebody's going to die in the county, and then everybody's going to be upset. Do not let this happen, Commissioners. I'm telling you.
Okay.
And the only way to do it is be
Steve,
reactive.
Steve, I got it. The mic works really good in here too, so please, I just that you be.
Can I make a comment?
I got one more comment here from the, in person here, then I'll come back to the commissioners here. Go ahead.
Roy Combs, 459 Collins Bridges Road. Been on the fire department 21 years at Danielsville. And it seemed like in 96, we had a better radio system than what we got right now. I mean, we could talk at Hull, we could talk wherever. But we keep bringing up fire, we keep bringing up fire. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that it's not just fire. There's 4 rescue departments in the county. Danielsville, I mean, R1 goes to Hull. A lot of times we can't even hear if they're en route. We know they dropped homes. We don't know that anybody's going. So rescue, 4 stations in the county. That's all under this fire part of the radio system. Also the first responders. We've got a great first responder program in the county. But 95% of those first responders are affiliated with the fire department somewhere. I think therefore a little while the county they had a couple radios to give out to some first responders that wasn't affiliated with the fire department. But I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that it ain't just fire that this emergency service affects. I mean, when we hear the sheriff department go out and we can't, if we can't hear them go out or transmitting, I mean, it makes a delay, a big delay time. And Brandon knows, I mean, because we was keeping up, you know, we have this delay, 6 or 7 minute delay is major when it's a vehicle accident or somebody trapped inside and we can't communicate. Not too long ago, one of the deputies was actually involved in a vehicle accident out there at Madison, I mean, at the junkyard. And I don't know if it was delay in radio or they couldn't hear, but I heard him on the radio say that I need full response. And that didn't happen. This come from the deputy. So, and Jason can tell you, you cannot talk on the radio at Hull, period. So I just want to make clear this, EMS, I mean, there's a lot of these guys that's with fire, that's with rescue and first responders.
And it's urgent.
Yes.
Very urgent.
I mean, that 3 to 4 minutes of that communication, lack of communication is major when you're the one that's either laying on the ground or either you roll up on the scene. I mean, you can talk to Michael, any of these road deputies, when you come up on something that hadn't been called in and you can't communicate, I mean, you just put 6 or 7 minutes that now dispatch is trying to figure out, who do I send? I can't hear because she's having to go back over radio, like Steve said, 3 or 4 times. What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? Can't get out.
So I just want to make the point, and I want to go back to Steve too. I don't think anybody here is suggesting, I don't think there's hesitation on support here.
I understand that.
They're just looking for an opportunity to look at everything here. And I do. I appreciate it. It affects SO, EMS, like you said, fire and rescue. So I don't think that's the issue right now. I think the issue is do the commissioners have enough to act on this tonight? Do they want to make that motion tonight, or do they want to defer? And go ahead, Commissioner Kirk.
Well, you know, I don't think there's anybody that's wanting to lay this with, you know, that we know, I think everybody sees the need of this, and we know that it covers the entire system and all the different aspects of public safety. What I would like to see is to give us enough time, and as Derek had said, maybe we can come back and vote on it next week, but figure out how that we can pay for this and limit the amount that the fire departments and all that have got to be putting into that. I mean, you know, if we could figure out a way that we can get it paid, I think that's the way we need to do it. And, you know, it's going to take a little bit of work and look at the proposal, but I don't think anybody's wanting to delay it. And I think next week, going back to what Derek said, I think the next meeting would be a good time to give us time to look that over and then look at the options that we got as far as how do we foot the bill? Because we know it's out there. We got to pay it, but we do need to figure out how we're going to do it before we just vote on something and then try to backtrack on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could address Commissioner Allen's question, what are we voting on or what are you voting on? Typically, if something this size, you're voting on a contract. I think we put in the RFP that we wanted the responders to, the offerors to include their contract forms. And hopefully that is in those proposals that we have, and I can review that when I get copies of them. But again, I assume what you're voting on is the contract that's included in those that will address time of installation, warranties, you know, what's included, what's not, all of the various things that you need to know.
And I was also curious about where, you know, because everything, got to take some out of SPOS and we got to take some out of general fund. And I was just curious of how that, even the motion need to be made to make sure that we covered all those bases. I just hate coming back later and having to do an amendment and all these other things. That was another question, just to make sure we had the proper motion to be made to make sure that everybody knew what we were doing and we did it properly. I just like seeing
You and two other people in the world.
So we've had the discussion, and commissioners, I also am aware that we were all sent both of these proposals. They are lengthy, that's true, but if by chance any of you didn't get it, I'm unaware, but please let us know if you did not receive both of these. And then we will make sure electronically tomorrow. Can I get you to send that to Tracy?
Yeah,
so that she can make sure it gets to them. Okay. We'll make sure that the information that Brennan provided tonight makes it to you as well. But that's all assuming, please, I don't want to be presumptive here, but that's assuming that you don't act on it tonight. So it's at this point, I'll ask you what's your, what's the pleasure of the board as far as consider the recommended proposal for the new 911 radio system.
Well, Chairman, you know, when Sheriff got into office in 2017, he had police cars breaking down left and right, things like that. We acted really fast to get those. Now, I'd like to go ahead and vote tonight if the fire department was okay with, you know, making sure that we paid for those, because that's what I want. But if the consensus of the board is to wait until that next meeting, I just wouldn't want to put it off any further than that next meeting. That's just my opinion. Which would be the what, second?
Be the second.
I'll reiterate that I think a week would behoove all of us to look at that, ask any particular questions. And, you know, this is a large purchase, so I would feel more comfortable having those documents in front of me. So that's my position.
We're gonna make this in the form of a motion, or I can only ask it so many ways here. What's your pleasure?
Yeah, just to wait until next week.
If it's the desire of the board to postpone this item for consideration until the next meeting.
I'll let somebody else make that.
Or as it's on the agenda, is for tonight, consider the recommended proposal, which was Qualcomm or Mobilcom.
Right.
That's what's actually on the agenda, is to consider a recommended proposal. So something either in line with the agenda, or if the board would choose to do something else.
Well, I'll make an official motion to postpone the consideration until next week.
And I'll second it.
Was that Brian?
That was, Commissioner Doster and then Commissioner Kirkwood the second. Is there any comments or concerns with delaying this or postponing till next week from the other commissioners? right. Commissioner Kirk, the vote's to you, sir.
Yes.
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 Okay. Item number 9, consider authorizing the chairman to execute a quitclaim deed for 2 acres of abandoned property at Old Burrow Smith Road. This was brought up at our last meeting. Burrow Smith Road is that section of 106 that used to continue on into Norwood and going into Athens. With the relocation of that road to facilitate traffic in and out of the elementary school, the Board of Commissioners and our current counselor actually addressed this topic back in 2005. And the decision back in 2005 was that the board chose to return the property or the ownership of that property to the current landowner at that time. The land is up for sale yet again, and as part of the transaction, they're looking for some, I believe, just an official document that would allow the purchaser to feel good that that action is actually completed. There was no document, to my knowledge, that was to that effect, very, very specifically to that effect. So both parties, the county and the property owners, purchasing property owner, have agreed that a quitclaim deed would suffice. We're not trying to abandon a road. It doesn't exist. It was relocated anyhow. So this would, though, close the loop. And again, and I'll turn this over to Mike for a little bit better and accurate description of this, but this is just to make the paperwork match what the real estate and the realtor and the new prospective owner would like to have. So with that, Mike.
Sure, and you've pretty well covered it, Mr. Chairman, but so when a road is relocated as opposed to just being closed entirely, the case law says that you don't have to go through the formal abandonment procedure for the portion that's no longer going to be a road. Title just automatically reverts to the underlying landowner. I think there was just a single landowner on both sides of the road at that time. Now that part has been sold, the new owner is in a transaction. There is, because it was just an automatic reversion, there's nothing in the real estate records documenting that. And of course, title companies work with real estate records, so they want a quitclaim deed from the county, just saying the county does not contest that title has reverted. The deed would actually be to the current owner of that underlying property where the old roadbed was. So that's what you're doing. It's just approving the execution of that quitclaim deed.
I'll let them make the motion that you're given the ability to execute the quitclaim deed. Can I do that?
You can do that. So I have a motion by Commissioner Strickland to authorize me to execute a quitclaim deed. And again, our county attorney has provided that document already, so it's prepared. I have a motion to authorize me to execute this quitclaim deed. Is there a second? I have a second. Any other questions about this particular one? Commissioner Doster?
Yes.
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 Thank you. The next item, the next 3 items are to consider initiating a process to abandon 3 different roads. And
I put those together in a motion.
I believe we can, and just to be clear, I want to make sure that everybody is.
Unless somebody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, So, and I'll ask the county attorney, do these motions, Mike, do they need to be individual, or can I include these with the appropriate language on these?
They can all be together. It's just that, the roads have ceased to be used by the public to the extent they serve a public purpose, and then we'll initiate the process. That's not the actual abandonment. You have to have the hearing.
Correct.
Before you do that collectively, I did have questions, though, if you don't mind me asking, that are different on some of these. Now, on Ray O'Kelly Road, all of the properties that are on that road also front on other roads, but that's not the case on the other two. And I just wanted to make sure we had addressed that with the landowners, that we do have, I think on, let's see, this is on Andrew Adams Road. There's just one parcel that would be left landlocked. There's 3 on the on O'Kelly Road, I believe, that would be landlocked without, if that road were abandoned.
Could one of those turn into a driveway?
Right. So again, I'd go back to your comment then, Mike, that this would be the process to initiate it. And if we run into, if there's something unforeseen on that, again, all of these were brought to the board for consideration. And I understand what you're saying. I think just for simplicity's sake, because the last one is different than the first two, let me just read the motion for each one of these. And if it correctly or accurately captures what we're trying to do, then we'll act on each one of these. First is Andrew Adams Road. So I'm looking for a motion to declare that Andrew Adams Road has ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, or that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in best public interest, and direct the county attorney to then begin the abandonment process.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll say.
And I have a second, Commissioner Allen. And again, should we have an issue with a property owner that has not been addressed?
It's children of the landowner.
Right. So I think, we've done this before where the intent was to carry out something and we had to change it because of other circumstances. So at this point, though, I do have a motion and a second. Any discussion on Andrew Adams Road? Okay.
Was the motion made by Commissioner Doster first?
It was made by Commissioner Kirk.
I'm sorry.
And Commissioner Allen. Okay, with that, the vote then is back. We're starting over here. Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
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 Okay. The next road is the same. This is for Ray O'Kelly Road. The motion is to declare that Ray O'Kelly Road has ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, or that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest, and direct the county attorney to begin the abandonment process.
So moved, Chair.
Commissioner Allen has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bettis. Any questions? Commissioner Strickland.
Yes.
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 All right, this next one's a portion of the road, so I want to make sure that a motion to declare that portion, or motion to declare that portion of O'Kelly Road originating at US Highway 98, terminating at County Road 126, Short Seagraves Road, has ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, or that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest, and direct the county attorney to begin the abandonment process.
So moved.
Commissioner Allen, I have a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Bettis, a second. Any questions? Commissioner Bettis.
Yes.
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 Okay. Item 13, this is to consider the approving a lot purchase and sale agreement for 50 Albany Avenue and to be paid out of 2020 SPLOST, not necessarily the bond, 2020 SPLOST designated for facilities acquisition and improvement. And again, summarizing that this lot, and I had the purchase price from the last exchange on this is it was at $60,000. I heard a different number earlier. It is not tied to fair market value. This is a negotiated price between the buyer and the seller in this case. And so it is for a purchase price of $80,000. And again, I want to make sure that there are several stipulations on this. All parties understand and agree that this transaction is subject to final approval by the Madison County Board of Commissioners on October 26, 2020, and that all parties understand and agree that this transaction shall close within 14 days after final approval is made. Additionally, GeoHydro was contracted with to perform study on this 1.5 acre parcel. And this was an environmental site assessment. And the assessment, and this is part of a 159-page report they provided, but an excerpt from it says this assessment has revealed no evidence or recognized any environmental conditions in connection with subject property. Based on the findings of this phase one, it's our opinion that the potential for a past or present release of hazardous or petroleum substances leading to contamination of soil or underground water at the subject property is low and further investigation is not warranted at this time. This property does not lie in a floodplain or flood zone, and that is, and again, this discussion on the purchase of this property has been under consideration for some 3 to 4 months. Again, other things needing to transpire before making an action upon it. The intent was to be available for whether it's a parking lot to support additional parking or facility construction. But the location of this property and the sale of it or the availability of it made it an interest to the board to act on it. So I'll open the floor in this case to consider approving the property at 50 Albany Avenue to be paid out of 2020 SPLOST designated for facilities acquisition and improvement. The numbers corresponding with the contractual numbers on this $80,000 purchase price.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Doster, second. So are there any questions that the commissioners would have at this time?
So if there's a perk test done on the soil, that would be done after the purchase, I guess, at this point? Because all we have is environmental, and that's not a perk test.
Correct. It is not. It is not a perk test. That is a true statement.
You know, everybody knows I voted no on another piece of property, and really, I'd much rather have had this piece of property and built on it. I think it could save money, but that's neither here nor there. I understand the commissioners, some of the commissioners' desire for campus, and I understand that too. I'm not saying they're wrong or right or anything like that, but this kind of goes with the other one. You know, it is definitely, this one is a little bit tougher for me. The other one, I thought we were just throwing the checkbook up there. This one, you're kind of adding to the campus for future. We've got it out there at 80. Somebody going to buy it next time, flip it around, and we have to pay 120 if we actually need it. You know, there's all kinds of things. It's not just black and white. You know, we have to sit up here and think about this, and we talk to our constituents, we talk to people coming in or out, and that kind of stuff, and try to make these decisions. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure you got the votes for it or anything like this. I'm not going to support it just because I'm sitting here thinking about, you know, consistency. I feel like maybe I shouldn't, just from a consistency standpoint. So I just, like I said, I just don't, having so much trouble trying to figure out what I want to do on this. Me and the chairman have talked about this. I've asked him so many questions, and I will commend him. He's giving me an answer for every single one of them. And I've gone back and forth with him trying to figure it out, but I don't believe I'll be supporting this purchase either. And to be quite honest, I just made that decision sitting right here. So.
And I did want to go back and address as far as a perk test. Perk test, if you choose to put a septic system, that makes it a little bit more critical.
Oh yeah, tell about sewer down there.
Well, and I was going to just mention that there's sewer availability here at the complex in proximity to that. So if that were to be desired, if there were going to be construction or whatever, that is something that could be considered. As a matter of fact, for the existing property out there at 20 Albany Avenue, that may need to be viewed as the way to go on that too.
Gotcha.
So,
but thank you for all the answers to questions. I'm sorry to be so decisive back and forth.
So I've got a motion and a second. Are there any other comments from our commissioners on this? All right, with that, the vote is to Commissioner Kirk.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay. I say 3-2. Okay, in favor. So our last item is item number 14, is to consider approving the facility use agreement with Path Volleyball Association. Each of you have a copy of that as part of this packet. I will tell you that this document mirrors the previously approved facilities use agreement and was deemed necessary in light of just the expansion of the volleyball program here. And if you've had a chance to look at it, this has been vetted by our county attorney as far as the terms in it and enforceability. So I'll open the floor to consider the approval of the facilities use agreement with Path Volleyball Association.
I'd like to make that motion, Chair.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Doster, second. Are there any comments or discussion on this agreement? The vote is to Commissioner Doster.
Yes.
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 As a former collegiate volleyball player, yes.
Yes.
Very good. Doster. All right, we're getting close, folks. Road updates, anything that I might be able to relay or an item of interest for the commissioners?
At the end of, I know, I said I wasn't gonna talk as much tonight. Golly, I just can't shut up. In the Crab Apple and Sanford Road, there's Derek went over there this morning. There was the way the fence was set and everything, the way the water's run and all, it just caved in the side right above the pipe. And so he's on that. They're gonna get over there as soon as they can. It is the priority. And so just wanted to let the folks know over there it is gonna be fixed. Then we've got another one. Finally got the box culvert ordered. It's like 8 weeks out, and with COVID, everything takes an extra, double time it seems. And so we've got the culvert ready on the other side of Sanford Road on Crabapple down there. He told me that too. So I just wanted to, make sure people knew that we were working on those things, trying to catch up.
Anything from anybody else? Okay. Any urgent matters? All right, we're at statements and remarks from citizens. I'll open the floor at this time. Any citizen, any remark, your floor for 3-4 minutes. Statements and remarks from any of our commissioners. Mr. Pruitt, any need for executive session that you're aware of?
No, no, sir. Although I do have to ask Commissioner Bettis, I assume you were a setter?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Nice.
I was going to say a long time ago, a 5-4 setter. Yeah. And actually I played the back row. Yeah.
All right, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion. We're adjourned, folks. Thank you all for your time.